Nero was, or Caligula. You know, these guys not only fell in love with their own images, they basically fell in love with the power, because I was told by some very high-ranking illuminists a number of years ago that it's not about money, Steve. It's about the power. It's about who lives, who dies. I said, well, you guys are going to have a problem with that. I told one guy, and I really did, I said this, I said, how are you going to handle it when the God challenges you and your little godship, and all he has to do is put a bacteria so small upon your skin, and the fact that you think you're God, and oh, by the way, when's the last time you went to the bathroom? The point is that people are becoming insane, but they're also, I believe the gates of hell are open, Dave, and that's not a figure of speech that Jesus used. It was a time-based prophecy of telling people what's going to happen, that basically all hell's going to open up, all entities that God chained, hid away from us, imprisoned, etc., now they're coming back. And it's kind of like the new Ghostbusters movie, you know, and the fact that even the previous ones, I don't know where they were, 20 years ago or whatever, but there was always a supernatural element associated with it, of that which had once been locked up and contained, now being free. And here's the problem. You can rub this Aladdin's lap all you want, but the genie isn't going back into the bottle. And what most people are unaware of is that in basic Islamic theology, they're looking for their conquering hero, the Mahdi, to come back, and in order to bring him back, they must have a global nuclear war. Dave, help me to understand where the disconnect is. We're pushing for nuclear war against Russia. We've put people, meaning the United States, we put troops on the borders of Russia. We put anti-ballistic missile systems there. And we see everything that Victoria Nuland did in the whole situation with the Ukraine, lied to foment this whole mini war there. So ask yourself this: who has the most to gain? And you'll come right back to those in control of this country at this moment, because it is their mindset, it is their face set. And so when you have the heads of our military pretty much being either having converted to Islam or sympathetic, when you have our intelligence converting to Islam or sympathetic, when you have the DHS at the head converting to Islam or sympathetic, the Attorney General, on and on and on and on. By the time you get through the whole cabinet, has there ever, now I'll challenge all you who think that this is just, this is just fear porn, this is just fear mongering. Tell me anybody who's ever stood up for the Christians in the cabinet, in the military, who's active duty, or ask yourself this: why did all of those admirals, generals, fleet officers, flag officers, higher level, who swore to protect this country against all enemies, foreign, domestic, why did they all go quietly into the night? Do you have an answer for that, Dave?
Well, I know what I know from a few that I've talked to. Actually, I've talked to two of them to be exact. And they were told, you speak, we'll kill your family. That's what I've been told. Now, I can't speak for all 300 plus, Steve, that were shown the door by Obama, but I know about the two.
Yep.
What do you have on that?
Here's the deal. Well, it's the same thing, you know, and there are people that have families. There are those that have not the family. But here's what I think is even a bigger issue. Even those who, and many of those men and are Christians and stuff, but there comes a time when a nation's given over to judgment. And I think that's the thing that's the hardest for me, and I've wrestled in prayer with this. I've asked counsel from men of God that I respect, people that I know are prayer warriors, and I've asked myself, maybe you have too, and I say it this way, in my prayer life, I say, Lord, I want to be faithful, but does there come a time when they will no longer endure good, sound doctrine? Do they even care? Do they even want to know? Lord, have they made their decisions? Have they set their faces like flint? And, you know, I still wrestle with that every day, okay? I truly do. Because, again, I do what I do, contrary to my critics, because I want people to live and not be murdered and slaughtered. You know, and this is the thing that's fascinating. When you try and get someone broken out of their irresponsible position that somehow, you know, a Marvel comic book figure is going to come to their behalf, totally fantasy. They will rather believe that than the God of heaven who spoke the worlds into existence by the sheer word of his power. Absolutely historically documented miracles of Jesus resurrecting from the dead, and yet they hated him without a cause, and the whole world lying in the evil one. So this is what the battle's going. But I am simply astonished at how few people, Dave, maybe not get it isn't a fair question, but look to you to carry the torch, yet they're not willing to lift their arm and carry their own torch, okay? They want you to start something, and now I'm talking in the exchange of ideas. They want this, they want that, but then they go back, they have another beer, they smoke another joint. By the way, I get people that, yeah, man, I listen to you in Hodges, and I'm higher than a kite. You know, well, one of these days your higher than a kiteness is going to bring you down into the earth in a reality check. So now we're just in a problem that I don't believe there are any natural answers for outside of being directed by God. You know, so that's my position. And I think we continue on. You continue on until the Lord tells you you're done. You know.
That's correct, and that's exactly what I'm doing. I sit down every morning or every evening when I write, and I ask, "Thy will be done," and I try to use that as my guiding light. And hopefully, I'm more right than I'm not. But Steve, you raised a really good point about how do we move people from intellectual awareness to overt action. And I think you're right. It's going to take spiritual intervention because right now people are programmed in a learned helplessness mode that their actions can't make any difference. And they don't understand that one man takes a step forward and 1,000 follow him. You have a movement. But they don't see that. They just see their one tiny step. And why should I stick my neck out to get it chopped off? Because no one else is going to support me. And that's where I think we're at.
Well, here's the thing. You know, you do it under the Lord. Isn't it amazing that the world says take a selfie, buy a stick, put your camera on the selfie, and oh, by the way, just keep backing up until you back off a cliff, or keep watching your idiot phone. And by the way, I have an iPhone, and I carry it 10% of the time I use a flip phone now, you know, and they walk into subway tracks, they walk into railroads, they walk in the street, get run over. But it's fascinating. The world says, love yourself, give yourself a group hug, blah, 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 self. And Jesus said, anybody would find me, let him deny himself, take up his cross, and follow me. Isn't that an interesting analogy, or, if you will, a contrast? You know, here's something interesting. I'm getting, a friend of mine says, tell Dave hi. I sent him the email, which was stupid, the F-word mongers at bob.white from G.I. Joe. And I want to share this in real time. I think it will help people. Here's what this spawn of hell said. You idiots, they build the UN trucks there, then truck transport to shipping ports. Bunch of fear-mongering idiots, okay? Now, this is what my friend said, and these are real battle-hardened veterans. God bless all you guys. I won't even call out anybody's names because it's just too dangerous. So he said, yeah, and this is the one who just sent me and said, say hi to you. Yeah, right. That's why when I showed it to my guys that are with me on the special response team right now for training, that we all had a laugh because we read that comment and all said, yeah, but those vehicles are Bearcats, and they're located everywhere in the country. He is a moron and not in the know. So if you're a real service member, G.I. Joe, basically, I guess when you use the word in front of the F-word mongers, I guess you're the one that looks like the stupid, will leave the other word open, and you're either a paid hack, a troll, or just a disgusting primordial thing that crawled out of the slime. Now, Dave, people say, you shouldn't do that. You should be higher than that. Listen, pretty soon people are going to have to realize this, that embracing the bottom of the devil only makes the devil more, how should I say this, more secure in that how dumb are these people unto death. I coined a term, I'm sorry, I bet I did, duds, dumb unto death, okay? And now I think we're moving from dumb unto death to denial unto destruction. So, you know, the thing is that it's getting worse and worse and worse. And I used to tell a story, and I think it's true even at this point. It's like a guy who's at a wall. He's going to get shot with a firing squad. He basically thinks if he puts a blindfold over his eyes and starts singing a song, that somehow he's not going to die. Well, guess what? We all know this. His voice goes silent. The hood becomes a cloud of red mist, and he's dead. That's how I see most of America. And I want to share this with you. Until the man of God says, and I think Franklin Graham has gone on record, God bless him, and a few others, until people repent, we can't stop what's going to happen that God has declared his judgment on. But here's where the disconnect comes, and I am absolutely seeing it on a basis I never thought it would even get to this level before, you know, we would be at war. The fact is that people do not want to move out of their complacency, their apathy, their indifference, their laziness, or their routine. You can call it normalcy bias, you can call it cognitive dissonance, you can call it a lot of stuff, but basically, as long as it's good today, who cares about tomorrow?
Well, I had a college professor who once said Americans live for Friday. And he was using that to explain why we don't accomplish many of our long-term goals as individuals. And that goes to explain what you just are talking about right here. And you're absolutely right. Bury your head. But Steve, there's going to come the time when the trucks with the blue helmets are coming down your street. There's going to come that day in the midst of food riots where strangers are trying to come in through your front door. That's when I think a lot of people are going to wake up, and not until.
Well, and at that point, they'll either be dead or taken to camp. See, here's the deal. You and I, and everybody on talk radio, I know that, and listen, I can't believe how petty people are. They take Alex on, they take me on over stuff. You know, can I just share one thing that's really important? I used to say, and I still say this, but maybe not with the same effect I should, if you understand the Third Reich, and I believe I've got a really good handle on the Third Reich. If you understand they never lost World War II, and Dave, you and I did a show on that, if you understand that they're richest industrialists and pharmaceutical giants, bankers and financiers, they didn't go to the Geneva Convention. They didn't go to the Nuremberg war trials. They all came to this country, you know, and had a jolly good time. And so the point that's really perplexing to me is that if you don't understand the root of evil, you can't deal with the fruit of evil. And it's the whole genetic drift away from being created as unique individuals out of the loving heart of God to absolutely establish a people. And by the way, angels are more powerful than we are at this point, but the point comes in time where God said, you've made man a little lower than the angels. And then Paul said, but know ye not that you're going to judge angels? That doesn't mean sentence angels, although it may mean being on the jury with fallen angels. But the whole point is this human creation. God made the most amazing entities in the universe. That's us. And when we fell, instead of just saying, move aside, Moses, because he did, I'm going to wipe them all out. And Moses, thank God, he was there saying, God, you can't do that because of your word. I tell people, if I'd been Moses, I'd say, let's do it. I'm sorry, but that's not right, okay? God obviously didn't put me in that spot, but it's we're at a point now, Dave, where the spiritual realm, we put up with the physical realm of evil, or we sit and watch the YouTube videos, or we watch the horrors of little children having their hearts ripped up. And I got to tell you something, even the picture of all those canine dogs being butchered, basically euthanized, and the company in America that got paid $9,900 a month for each dog. I started weeping when I saw those German shepherds, and I think I put the article up where St. Francis said St. Francis of Assisi said, he who would be cruel to animals will be equally cruel to humans. And when you understand that Iran just basically is arresting dog owners and destroying their dogs and stuff, and you hear the heroics of these dogs and you see their pictures with medals and you talk to the guys that were canine handlers, there's a love relationship. There's a supernatural relationship where that dog will lay down its life and do anything to save its master's life. And I'll tell you what, I understand why Michael Savage got so furious when the government took those dogs away. So what does that have to do with what we're talking tonight? These entities do not value human life. They hate human life. They're absolutely entrenched in this country. And, people say, well, why is the Air Force only able to field 50% of its aircraft? Why are the Marines having such a problem? Why is the Navy's top ship shutting down? Why is the USS Stennis, an aircraft carrier, being targeted, which, by the way, the Navy denied, okay? Obviously, when a lock-on system goes into effect, whether you're in a fighter, an aircraft carrier, destroyer, obviously there's an electronic signal set, and those type of things are saying, and China just flat out said, we're not afraid of you. The day of aircraft carriers projecting force is basically done away with by one hypersonic nuclear missile. One hypersonic nuclear missile, or a hypersonic nuclear torpedo. Or, if you want, you flip a switch with your electronic technology and things go bad. So what I'm saying is this. The military has been emasculated, and for the record, I've never been in the military. The military, and I have pledged the last 20 years of my life on talk radio to helping vets, okay? And not just with my words or being a cheerleader, and without going into detail, I walk the walk in that realm. I've even split up with friends who basically wouldn't make good on their commitment to help this brother, that brother. Can I help them all? No, but at least I made the effort to help whatever I could and whoever I could, still would do it today. But we're at the point now where at the end of the day, at the end of this radio broadcast, at the end of the evening, at the beginning of the morning, we absolutely have to understand we are under attack. We have to get right with the Lord. That means confessing our sin, asking Jesus to come into our life as personal Lord and Savior. And by the way, the greatest tragedy I know is this. The power of the gospel is in the person of Jesus Christ, the name of Jesus Christ, the Holy Spirit, who is the gifter of the gifts of the Holy Spirit, is the one who lifts up Jesus Christ. And most people are settling, Dave, for a dead orthodoxy instead of a vital relationship with moment by moment. And I can tell you this, Pastor Langford and I, Doug Hagman, others, we've gone on his show for 5 or 6 weeks praising the Lord as Jehoshaphat did. And look, the people that couldn't see mocked it, scoffed at it, ha, 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 ha. They didn't get it. We saw and were warned by the Holy Spirit what's coming, and we were praying for God's people to be delivered. Could Dave Hodges be taken out tonight, tomorrow, the next day? Of course. Could I? Absolutely. But guess what? Until God says, come up, guys, I'm done with, your work on earth is done, we're here, and we got to do what God's called us to do.
No, I totally agree with you, and that's why I know I'm here for as long as I'm needed. And when I'm no longer needed, I'd rather not think about that. But Steve,
yep.
Where we're at right now, and you said something the last time you were on my show. You said, what we've talked about that is coming is no longer coming, it's here. And if we look at financial decline, financial ruination in this country, do we get to the end of the year? Are we even going to have an election?
I don't think so. I just don't see it, okay? The reason I say that, and look, the blessing I have is Dave, you know that it's other people that risk their life and limb and their fortunes to tell people what's really going on. When you see the movement of the military across this country, and let me make this clear, you guys, everyone listening to this on Radio Land, and everyone listening around the world, these people don't play for broke. They play for keeps, okay? The idea that somehow you're just going to sit in your living room in your lazy boy, or I have another name, I won't say it on the radio, for those chairs, you know, the point being is that we're already being told that the end of freedom of speech is nigh at hand. We're already being told that if you call a murderer, that you can be imprisoned, and the guy that did the murder goes free. Can I tell you what I've been told, and I think that most people who live in the world of reality will back this up? When you have a preponderance of individuals in federal penitentiaries, if they happen to be, blacks, they get recruited by the black Muslims, okay? This isn't a black statement. There are white Muslims, too. There are Latino Muslims. But the point is that all of these stories that we used to hear about warehouses full of guns, people said that would never happen. What would never happen is the fact that what happens when all those, and I think it's 1,750,000, if somebody with the Bureau of Prisons wants to correct me, I'm just going by, my memory. The point being, let's say close to 2 million people who fit that category, they get released, they're, let's say, taken in bands to warehouses, armed, and say, you are now the army of Allah, go get them. Would you think that would have been believable had you not seen the thousands of career criminals released out of federal prison?
No, I wouldn't have, and I wouldn't have believed it just a couple of years ago. But I'll tell you what really caused the worm to turn for me was when Loretta Lynch made a public announcement in the aftermath of the San Bernardino massacre by a member of ISIS, and she didn't express sympathy towards the families. She said, if you use the term Muslim extremist, we're coming after you. That's when it became real for me.
Well, and that's been stated, according to WorldNet Daily, in the Idaho situation, We're to the point, Dave, where what does it take? By the way, I had somebody, and maybe in the next hour we take a break, I can go find it in my voluminous email just for today, where a man sent me the dream his little son had, and then somebody put the UN vehicles up on Drudge or something, yes. And the little boy said, Daddy, that's who I saw in our driveway. Those are the things I saw with the evil men coming to get us.
I got that email too.
Okay, so and I'm not making it up. The thing is that here's the thing: out of the mouth of babes, God has ordained praise. The Bible talks about that the children who come, the children and a child shall lead them. The interesting thing is, just as there's a generation that grew up that knew not Joseph, and obviously persecuted the Jews in Egypt. Well, they were Hebrews at that point. But the deal is that now there's a whole generation of people that, they think that they've got to have a sandbox in the local corner of the university that's a safe zone. And I'm on record as saying, I think they should be given adult diapers. I think they should be given Prozac dip binkies, okay? I think they should be given pillows and let them fight each other off, and then serve them chocolate ice cream, you know what I'm saying, and let them sit in their dirty diapers, sucking their Prozac binky as the world gets ready to do away with them, because guess what? If they want to play in a sandbox, cats play in a sandbox, little children do too, but they grow up. Evidently, now the idea is to put all of the collegiate liberals into sandboxes and to safe zones. Good night. They better not get in a car. They never better get on an airplane. They shouldn't open the door. Maybe for their sake they should quit breathing. Because, again, we're in such a nightmare situation. And I just absolutely want people to get it. And look, it's like food, okay? We're in the drought. I was, astonished to see Phoenix, I think, hit 121, Vegas hit 117, but some of these records were broken. It's one thing to be in Death Valley and hit 120 or 121. It's another thing when you're right at the point of inception where if people can't put two and two together, the biggest issue is drought equals famine, famine equals disease, disease equals death. You can still buy food. Yeah, but it's filled with glyphosate, and it's also genetically altered, and also you're turning into a mutant. So laugh while you can with the human voice, because pretty soon that will be taken away from you. Or high fructose corn sugar or corn syrup. Here's the deal. We've been genetically altered by the water we drink. Did you ever think, Dave, that the pharmaceutical companies knew exactly what they were doing when they created birth control pills, and all of the urine that went into the public water systems would have the chemical emasculation effect that it's had on the American males over all these years? Actually, decades.
Yeah, to answer your question, short answer for me, yes. And when I wrote about it and I called it Toilet to Tap, no one wanted to listen. Yeah, no one wanted to listen, Steve, when I wrote it. I probably need to break that out and rerun that because there's so much more scientific evidence now. But I was scorned when I wrote that article, despite having documentation.
Well, again, and not only that, it gets worse, okay? 25 years ago, I talked about excretive pharmaceuticals. It wasn't just the xenoestrogens or the estrogen compounds. It was everything. I mean, you got a sewer mixing bowl, and even though you can take out the E. coli in water and you can take out different pathogens, you still can't get rid of that. So the mullahs come on the scene, and they start making statements like this: America has lost its fertility rate. That's absolutely correct. Yes. Basically mocking the sperm count. It's interesting. I'll make a statement. The sperm count went down in America as the illiteracy rate rose dramatically. The masculinity. Come on, do you really think ROTC military guys need red high heels, or I don't know what they're called, but an apron that makes you sympathize with a pregnant woman? Do you really think that women are meant to be in the trenches? Now, it's different if you're, fighting for your life and stuff, but what's happened? The morale of the military has been so compromised, you can't believe, well, forgive me, you can believe, the average person listening to this cannot believe some of the psychological duress that our fighting men are under, They're being lectured more on how to get along with the 31 flavors of now defined human beings. It used to be male and female. That was pretty easy. And I said, I don't even want to go with the 31 version, Number one, I'm too non-sequential. But here's the gist of it. Confusion. The Bible says God is not the author of confusion. Then who is? Devil. You can demoralize, and here's the thing. All warfare is based on if you will, an implied morality, the implied right to fight for your values, your language, your culture. The only guy I see that's really out there fighting for his borders, language, and culture is Vladimir Putin. And I'll get emails saying, you're a sympathizer. No, I'm telling you the truth. If Putin tells the truth, I'm going to stand by his statement. He's telling the truth. If your government wants to take your guns away, which they do, isn't it interesting? Not one jihad training camp has ever been raided or any guns taken away. I got to tell you, now we've got stabbings and chaos in California, I think Sacramento or someplace. They're calling it a Nazi mega rally. Notice how the Nazis themselves will blame the Nazis, yet they're behind the scenes paying off everybody, okay? So where does that leave us tonight? First of all, Brexit. Let me just capsulate this. Brexit was an inside deal. We got eyewitnesses that the lights stayed on in the city of London way into the night and into the early morning. The city of London is a separate entity. It's like the Vatican in Rome. It's not under the British government. People were trading and making $100 billion bets They did a really good job of keeping that news out of the market. Most everybody didn't believe that the Brits would exit from the Brexit. The reason why it was allowed, Dave, is so that the gleaning in the foreign currency markets could be maximized. You follow me? You read of guys making 200, 300, 400 million bucks on what results to 4 hours, 8 hours of trades. That's pretty good wages. Oh, except one thing. It came at the pillage and plunder of their countrymen and taking their country under. What most people have got to understand about anybody that's in favor of the Trans-Pacific Partnership is they're traitors. What most people have to understand about those in favor of gun control, that they're your executioners. And by the way, all the ones that sat in on the, love fest on the floor of Congress the other day, all the Democrats, guess what? They all have carry permits. They all have weapons. Or as some of them said, who was a guy, Rangel? Only us people need to have guns. The other people have the police. Well, I guess the police aren't good enough for them, but they are good enough for guns? It's insanity. It's total tragedy. It is the self-destruct mechanism. And I know you've probably wondered this, Dave. People don't just get taken by surprise. Even God said, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. Do you think you and I would be invited to, you just got to love yourself more. You just got to realize your best life is now. You just got to realize that we just have a group hug, or like the Attorney General, love will conquer all. Well, it didn't work on the Nazis. By the way, Attila Hun didn't practice it. Genghis Khan didn't practice it. Kublai Khan and some of the dynasties in China that killed 30 to 40 million people. Most people aren't familiar with that history. Or the wars that have taken place in ancient history. A lot of people died. So the group hug never worked in history, Well, I'm going to love you to pieces. Well, yeah, unfortunately, you're going to be hacked into pieces and probably sold in the meat markets of whatever army is hungry enough to sell human flesh. I used to make statements like that, and I was called an extremist, okay? I was called a fearmonger. I was called a fear porn purveyor, blah, 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 until the meat of Christians started showing up in Syria, until little children, 4-year-old girls with their heart ripped out. Oh, I don't want to hear that. You're bloody quail. You're so bloody. And you're so bloody stupid, okay? People who live in the world of denial and absolutely will do anything and everything to attack anybody who says, hey, this is really going on. If the blind lead the blind, Jesus said, they both fall. But it's tough to basically say, read the handwriting on the wall when people put their hand up like horse blinders and start singing to themselves. Have you ever had, Dave, anybody do that? Talk to somebody, say, well, Mr. Hodges, what do you think? And you start to talk, and they put their fingers in their ears and start to sing and run from you?
Not that. I've had them turn to the side, hold their hand out from letting me get too close, supposedly, and just say, oh, that's right, I forgot, you're one of those conspiracy theorists. Yeah, I've had that happen.
Well, yeah, when they run, though, from you, that's a pretty good sign, okay? And so here's what I'm saying tonight. I hope people understand that the go button has been pressed. The go button is simply this. We've seen tests of communications being shut down throughout the country. EBT cards waiting some places 9 days. We've seen the disruption of the Baltic Dry Index. We've seen reports coming from all over the country of a lack of product, or maybe drugstore shelves with only 1 or 2 deep. Meanwhile, we get the stories from the truckers, and a lot of truckers listen to you, listen to me. They're dropping vast amounts of stuff off in the underground.
Stuff right now with Steve, but before we rejoin Steve, I just want to remind everybody again to keep Austin Broer, Ted Broer's son, in your prayers with his heart ailment. He's doing much better, but he's certainly not out of the woods. And also we have an ongoing situation with Health Masters, because they have been so good to me and so good to my family, and they help so many people. We have partnered for tonight for a 1-week deal that if you go to the website healthmasters.com and order one of their health products or several of their health products, you can take 5% off your entire purchase price simply by using the coupon code DAVE5. Again, that's DAVE5. And again, Steve and I will probably touch on this in the second hour. I think America could look like Venezuela before a whole lot longer, and you're going to want to have food and water and a whole lot of other stuff. But get your food from Numana.com/Hodges, where we have the very best in quality, pricing, and convenient delivery. Again, that's Numana.com/Hodges. And, of course, Scene.life. And Steve and I both are members of Scene.life. And I think it's important that we have people who go there who can reach out and have relationships, collegial relationships with people, share information, kind of like our committees of correspondence that the Founding Fathers used after martial law was imposed on Boston. And so I encourage everyone, get out of Facebook and go to Scene.life. And there's no .com to it, no mystery. And this time, hopefully, I can read my own writing. Steve Quayle here, and I've had a business relationship with Steve, a personal relationship with Steve, a professional relationship with Steve, and really it kind of centers around what he does for people. And you're hearing about how he does step up, and he does so much of this quietly behind the scenes. But he is going to try to help you save what wealth you've accumulated. And if you keep your cash in the bank much longer, you keep the bulk of it there, you are going to be some of the sorriest people on the face of the earth. You need to prepare to come out the other side of these coming crises. And the dollar is not going to be worth the paper that's written on. You need to get into precious metals, Renaissance precious metals. Steve will be around for an hour after the show, 406-586-4842. And if that's not convenient for you, call him in the morning, again at 406-586-4842. Steve, anything you want to add to that before we get back into our discussion?
Well, yeah, I'll be up for probably another 2 hours from the end of the show, and they can email me and but I want people to email me that are serious. Here's the deal. If you don't know that you want to do what you're going to do, all I'm telling you is this, is right now, even guys I know who are in the business that should be going to bed or, approaching going to bed on the East Coast are staying up. Tomorrow is a big day. People say, well, couldn't gold sell down, silver sell down? Yeah, they could. Anything's possible. Look, gold had, in effect, Dave, $160 range in one day. That's a big deal. That's the biggest move. But here's what people don't get. A guy just sent me an email, okay? I think this is really important because this guy is telling me that his USSA bank account was hacked, okay? And that everything was stolen, okay? May I just read this real quick? It reiterates what you said. A couple paragraphs. Steve, my bank account was hacked Friday and Saturday, and my savings and checking accounts were depleted. The thief stole everything by having all of my personal information, which I can only guess they obtained via the OPM data loss of about a year or so ago that affected 4 to 5 million government employees. As mentioned, the thief or thieves knew everything about me, enough to convince the USAA representative that they had forgotten their phone passwords, which was then reset to one they could choose, allowing them complete access to all my accounts. While USAA has been helping this issue so far, as they should be, wait times to speak with a representative have been extraordinarily long. I've never, ever experienced a 2-hour wait to simply get through the main access line to speak to someone. I would suggest to your readers, this is the last thing, Dave, who have accounts with USAA to closely monitor all transactions. Also, if you still have the non-chipped ATM debit card, I'd suggest ordering a chip card pronto. Mine happened to arrive in the mail just yesterday, and I don't even want to deal with the chip or not chip. But here's what's going to happen, okay? I believe that every bit of psychological, mental manipulation has been aimed at the people in America to ultimately sit back as their accounts are hacked and everything stolen from them. Look at every single data breach, and I maintain that there are no safeties. You think your password safe? It isn't. So I'm slowly exiting. For the record, I do not do online banking. I'm going to make this as clear as I can. The people that I know who have gotten really hurt financially do online banking. Do you know what the typical complaint to me saying that, get out of it immediately, close it out, start a new account is? Well, it's not convenient. Neither is a bloody prison camp being fed gruel and listening to the screams in the night. You know, Dave, if people won't, and this is the hardest part, if you ask me, I'll volunteer even if you don't ask me. The most frustrating thing is to see people that should know better, that obviously have some success in doing something well, and yet they won't make a single step to protect their family, and I'm talking physically protect them. I know people, obviously, that are anti-gun. And by the way, I want to recommend a book to all your listeners. I had Sig Swanstrom on, God, Guns, and Guts, a Firearm Defense, the Bible View. Sid's a real guy. He knows what it's like to live in Honduras or Guatemala and have to have armed guards in the churches. And we talked about Charles Van Wyck, who's a guy that saved 1,000 people from getting slaughtered in South Africa with 2 shots with a .38 snub nose. And when the one of the terrorists was captured, they said they had enough guns and grenades to kill every single one. Any pastors listening to us tonight, you need to have elders with cojones, okay? I would pick the guys that are military or, police officers to always be carrying. If you want to really do it right, make sure that your rear entrances are secured and that anybody that comes in, if they're carrying concealed weapons, let them carry the concealed weapons. I'm talking about parishioners. But, you know, you need to take this thing seriously because, again, Dave, I put up on my alerts today that you're going to love this one. In Henderson, Nevada, a security guy working in one of the casinos, his friend called and told him that they basically arrested 5 Middle Easterners, 3 on the terrorist watch list, with blueprints of bridges in the area and a Quran, and basically they were ordered to turn them loose. Please go to my website, ladies and gentlemen, stevequayle.com. The most important stuff I post in real time in my world is when I'm awake, is on the Q alerts, top right-hand side. And it's astonishing, Dave. You understand that that's rhetorical. Of course you do. That no matter what happens, no matter what's intercepted, there is an order comes down from the higher-ups to release these individuals. I guarantee you they're not going to take that attitude towards white guys, you know. And I'm not making this about race, ladies and gentlemen. What I'm making it about is the spirit behind this. For when Jesus said, nation shall rise against nation, kingdom against kingdom, that word nation in Greek is ethnos, from which we get the word ethnicity. So we're talking race wars. I hate it. I tell my black brethren who love Jesus, don't get involved in it. Stay away from the people that want to instigate and initiate it. Same thing with my Latino brothers, and I owe my life to Latinos. So there's no, white guilt or white anything in me. There's a white horse, and the rider is Jesus Christ. I'm talking about who comes back to rule over the planet. But the thing, and I'm not talking about any, Salt Lake City doctrine. I'm talking about Jesus Christ, the Son of God. We're talking about events transpiring in our very days. If people cannot have their children safe in the streets of Idaho, which is a state that you wouldn't think would be having these issues, and yet the bad people, the ones talking about it, being threatened with prison or arrest, I mean, does anybody get the absolute absurdity of this? So I think people had better, and I'm sorry if this is offensive, good. Grow a set, get real, and prepare. Because when I say prepare, this is not like you're preparing for what I call a 72-hour suicide kit, okay? A 72-hour suicide kit is just prolonging the inevitable. You need to have health food supplements, vitamin C. Do you know how much help a half a pound of vitamin C powder, and not made in China will be worth, or just multivitamins that are the best out there? Like, good night, Mike Adams. Absolute natural health news. I mean, fantastic product. By the way, if no one's ever said this, I want to acknowledge something. I think Mike Adams is one of the most intelligent, one of the most gifted writers in the nutritional and real world that there is. I delight in reading his articles. He is absolutely gifted, and you can learn a lot from him because he knows what he's talking about. And I'll share this too,
Agreed.
Dave. And this is really critical. You know, I've had a sponsor for years, Enter Health Foods. Okay, I can tell you this, that those guys have been amazing. When I was helping veterans, Steve St. Clair, man, he was at the pump. He was on the phone immediately. The testimonials of people, Enter Health supplement, and I'm talking about a nutritional supplement, and the Coco Mojo. He was the first guy to combine, you know, coconut and chocolate, organic, and having, you know, dealing with caprylic and lauric acid. This is Katie's, you know, world. But here's what I'm saying: you can buy smart too. Nutrition doesn't come in how much pounds you put down into your stomach. It comes in the form of genuine nutrition that can feed your cells on a cellular level. So Enter Health, and I'm saying this, people have got to understand that Enter Health and Inner Health will give you brain health, and everything that's going down right now is to cause cognitive dissonance. We're at it, Dave. This is a week that will go down in history as famous, and I'm with you. The closer we get to the Republican convention, you're going to see the biggest batch of cowards, traitors, bullies, turncoats. There's no words I can describe that we can use on the air right now, people that are going to show their true colors. Because as Romy just sent me, my friend Romy, intercessor friend, just sent me saying, God is separating the sheep from the goats. That's the same word that Pastor Langford said, the wheat and the tares. But I'm telling you what, you're going to see a harvest of tares, T-A-R-E-S, and I'm praying that God intervenes to stop the terrors, T-E-R-R-O-S, that are being planned. Stay alert, and again, I'll say this, unless you know you're supposed to be there, take very active measures for situational awareness. Always have a back door. Keep your eyes on the back door. Learn to do what the Secret Service does. You listen to the speaker, but you scan the audience. Get a position in the building where you can see everything. If you go to bathrooms, don't go alone. This is one time where, you know, it's becoming wiser even to go to restrooms and for legitimate reasons, you know, or have somebody stand out and watch, because there's nothing safe anymore. And that's what terrorism feasts on. The ability to keep their enemy, which is us, destabilized in all ways. So, you know, Dave, if you got any questions, I don't want to just make this a dump, you know, all this data. But look, we're in it. This is a big deal. This is a huge deal because it's the ignition that has been turned on. Or let's put it this way: the plunger in the dynamite igniter has been pressed down. And now everybody goes, see, the explosion wasn't really bad. Wait until it takes full form. Wait until it really begins to happen. I think that, Randy, thank you for sending me that about your bank account. When you get guys like that talking about their bank accounts being hacked and all their savings and checkings being depleted, what is this brother to do except live off what he may have out of the bank?
Well, I got one for you along those lines too, Steve. On one of our accounts, our business account, we had a $642 charge. My wife came to me and said, "Did you spend $642?" And I looked at her and I said, "No, I'd be in trouble without clearing it with our finance minister or my wife." And she said, "Well, it's here." And she showed me. We called the bank. They don't have any record of it. They're trying to resolve the discrepancy right now. I kid you not. The bank could not pin this down in a 2-day period. We're going to go in tomorrow and we're going to force the issue. But what you're telling me is not surprising. The other thing I wanted to bring up to you was tell a brief story here and then lead into the question, because I want to know what I'm going to be up against. And let me tell you that back in, was it 94, 95, I was, excuse me, a Maricopa County first responder. And I did it because, you know, they say, your family gets the drugs first, you'll know what's going on, blah, 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 blah. So I volunteered from my campus. And then FEMA took us over and we did joint stuff. We had joint meetings. And I became friends with a guy in FEMA who lived not very far from me, and I got to know his entire family very well. Well, 4 years ago, in 2012, They came to me, actually came to my place of work. They're waiting for me in my office. I walked in, and they said, yeah, we're leaving in 2 months. And they described basically a sheltered community where they'd be out of harm's way. And what they told me, and this guy's specialty in FEMA was counter-bioterrorism. He said that we have stuff that can do things that no one else in the world knows what we have or what we can do. And he goes, and that means the Russians and the Chinese. And he said, if this country rises up, it's going to be unleashed on the American people. Do you have an opinion on that?
Well, sure, and the reason, the hats I've worn over the years and the books I've written and researched, one of them was Breed No Evil. You can design a bioweapon for any identifiable blood trait or genetic trait, okay? What I've worried about, and I think this is what he was implementing, or not implementing, but he was indicating or kind of signaling you, is that the chemtrail spraying, geoengineeringwatch.org, for those of you that don't know what I'm talking about, that I've always been concerned it was a primary of a binary weapon. In other words, Dave, we all have within ourselves now, after all these decades of spraying, we have different antigens, and a lot of us have pathogens. And what happens if they introduce what I call the death spray? We've all got Part A, but they introduce Part B. What happens if they're introducing a genetically altered form of rabies that has been already typed in some of the zombie protocol that the medical field has gotten? What he's saying in no uncertain terms is everybody had better realize this, that Psalm 91 is their only protection, and it's no longer enough to go to church